No more Hispanic workers on his job site, so they called him in.
That man talking about I didn't vote for this. When ICE came to his construction place and raided it and took all his workers that he claims are good men. But he voted so that the gang members and the criminals would be taken out, right? Them saying this is not what I voted for is a scapegoat, because it's exactly what they voted for. They voted with their racism. And they knew exactly what he meant when he said the criminals and the gang members, right? And they were fine with that, fine enough to vote for him, right? Until it affects them. When it affects them, then they're upset, then they're sorry. Sir, the only reason you're upset is because you're going to lose business and money. I find it very hard to believe that you feel any form of sympathy or empathy for those men and their families. And you saying I did not vote for this is you trying to escape accountability for what you are putting them and their families through with your vote. So you did, in fact, vote for exactly this, because your vote was a vote of hatred, bigotry, xenophobia, and plain old racism. So don't try to tell us that this is not what you voted for. Take accountability and responsibility for a situation that you helped create.
Order. I don't know how long I can keep doing this. I have a construction company, and not a fucking thing is getting done. This is what I get. This is what I fucking get. Nothing but white boys. It takes 4 days to do a one-day job. I might have fucked up.
Trump just made America's biggest mistake. They drove the workers away. Now,
construction of our home is in jeopardy because the labor situation is completely unknown.
Andy Adamick is supposed to move into his new home in July, and he likes the guys who are working on it. He doesn't know what their immigration statuses are, but they were not there when he checked on the house Tuesday.
Because these guys provide a valuable labor force.
The acting director of ICE is pretty pissed off right now. He is out here making demands that U.S. politicians and citizens stop talking about their terrible actions his ICE agents are taking. Check this.
Law enforcement's common sense. Politicians need to stop putting my people in danger. I'm not asking them to stop. I'm demanding that they stop. Here's what I have to say to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, and anyone else stirring up the outrage about what ICE does. These are real people with real families you're hurting with your ridiculous rhetoric and inflammatory comments. And it's time to remember that.
I'll tell you one thing. It will be a cold day in hell before I let some fascist fuck like this guy tell me what I can and can't talk about. If you really don't like the way your ICE agents are being treated, I have a novel fucking idea. Stop training them to be shitty fucking people. There's nobody to blame except you and your training and the ICE agents themselves for what they're going through. And while we're on the list of making demands, I have a couple of my own. Stop victimizing innocent people. Stop raiding work zones, churches, and schools supposedly looking for criminals. You are creating the problem that you're out here grandstanding about.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Eugenic Stories. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing fine. The following is a video that I think we need to look, because it's really important for us to address these things. Sometimes you do something thinking that there will be no consequences for it, but again, the consequences is right back in your face. As they say, karma is a boomerang. And this is a perfect example of what is called backfiring. Now, we have white folks that are owning constructions in the United States. And you know what is happening to the immigrants, especially from the Hispanic or the Latino community? Majority of them, you know, as an history of working in the construction sites. And actually, out of 10 construction sites, 8 of them, you'll find 90% of people are working there are Hispanics. So this means that when the ICE raids are working and people are having projects like buildings that they want to build, it is really challenging for them to continue with these constructions, as people, laborers who work in these places, they fear that one, they'll be deported. This affects the construction sites and people with products, people with plans, people who want to build and want to sell, right? And this means that there is losses that are happening to these people, because maybe there are materials that were already opened, materials that are already planned to be used, and now they'll be going into waste because there is nobody who will be working on them. But how did this come up to be? This come up to be in this way. First, we have white people that voted for Mr. Donald Trump, and they voted for them for the policies because they had his manifesto because of the policies of immigrants in the United States, in this country. So when that happened to them, the following are things that happened. First, they voted because they know that this is going to be affecting black people. Two, they voted because of racism. Instead of looking at the policies that was going to be affecting them, they fixated their mind that this is Mr. Donald Trump, this is a white person, which is going against Kamala Harris, a black person. So again, all of these things that happened it happened because of, racism. And this shows you how costly racism can be, as now they are facing losses. People should be selling their plots or something. They can't do that because the constructions are not over. Some plots needs finishing. It can't happen when the laborers are not there. And you know that 90% of people who work in these construction sites are Hispanics, and the Hispanics are being kicked away. So what does this mean? This means that there is a predicament in this, and who are facing losses are white people who voted for Mr. Donald Trump. Buckle up for this video. As you know, I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Talk Stories. This is where you find unfiltered truth. So let's buckle up for this video. I'll be back.
So I just ordered my food at the Taco Bell. And this is a crazy Taco Bell, dude, because check it out. You guys can't come down and eat inside because all the chairs are up in the air. For some reason, nobody's allowed to sit down today. In fact, the security guard is even here guarding the chairs, making sure nobody can sit down. Some type of safety thing, apparently. Anyhow, rumor is that the Chicanos didn't show up to mop the store today, and it's not sanitary, but he won't peep. He won't give up no answers.
The whole country is falling apart. Latest news from the White House. Massive evictions backfired. California farmers watched $2 billion worth of crops rot in the fields. 4,000 farm workers disappeared overnight. Grocery prices up 40% in 2 weeks, and it's only going to get worse. Construction sites in Texas look like ghost towns. Half-finished hospitals, schools, bridges, just abandoned there. Contractors say we lost 80% of our workforce in one raid. Seniors in Florida are suffering the most. Nursing homes can't find people to work. 30% to 50% staff shortages everywhere. One nursing home has closed forever. These undocumented workers aren't taking jobs. They're doing jobs that no one else wants to do. The streets of LA are now littered with trash restaurants close at 6 p.m. No dishwashers, no cooks, no cleaners. America wants them gone, but forgets who keeps us alive. Is this enforcement, or will the country destroy itself? The real question is, who will clean up the mess after we clean them up?
Today's the day that I turned my truck in. I went broke. Put it mildly, I just went broke. I turned my truck in. Love my truck. I tried my best.
I don't give up. Is this you? Yeah, that's you.
I said what I said, Joe Biden. Say one good thing about Joe Biden. He'll be dead soon, and then...
May you forever live in this energy that you created for yourself. May you have the day you deserve for the rest of your life.
It's financially as well as emotionally. It takes a toll.
Vincent, you voted for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
He thought the Trump administration was going to focus solely on deporting criminals. It seems immigration officials, he says, are just trying to meet quotas now. 6 Nicaraguan men who on May 27th were detained along US 1 in Sugarloaf Key on their way to a job. Their immigration attorney says it should not have happened because 5 of the 6 have their paperwork in order with pending asylum cases. Vincent Scardina is the owner of the roofing company where they worked. He's owned it 37 years.
You become their friends, just not an employer, but a friend. And you see what happens to their family. It's quite a shock.
Given his support for the president, we asked what he would tell the commander-in-chief if he had a chance.
What happened here? This situation is just totally, just blatantly not at all what they said it was.
Y'all better check on your husbands if they come back from the job site looking like this. There were no more Hispanic workers on his job site, so they called him in, and now he looking like he's allergic to the sun. He is so stunned, both him and his wife are speechless. Y'all, that sun is not playing out there. Look at this guy over here. You think the sun is playing out in Mexico as well? Look at this. He created a whole shade hat with cardboard because his little bucket hat was not doing the job. And that's not all, y'all. The sun has been so bad, this company had to hire extra men to hold up this tarp on this roof so they can nail in the shingles in peace. The sun is out here playing no games. It is putting out God level radiation, man. Look at this. This man got a whole snowsuit on, y'all. Look at this. What? How do you guys feel about snow gear in 100-degree weather? Would you do it? Could you? And just to let you know, people are still seeing the two suns around the planet. Check this out, y'all.
Alright, you guys have to see this. Okay? Watch.
Check this out. Here's one. Here's two. Oh, there's a third one. Look. There's a third one. Look, it's faint. Y'all see that? 3 of them. They told us in the end times, y'all, that there will be signs in the skies. Y'all see it every single day, y'all. Multiple of them. If you ain't feeling this shift, it only means you ain't tuned in. And by the look of these comments, it look like everybody is feeling it, whether it be for the good or for the bad. But let me know what you guys think about this video. Like, follow, and share for more videos like this. The shift is here. Let's continue to get it. Peace and no more Hispanic workers on his job site, so they called him in.
Not y'all melting. You all are like disintegrating into the rooftops and cement. Like, you voted for Trump so that he could take immigrants out to get jobs back that you never had. And you're dissolving outside in this heat. Y'all should have went for corporate jobs. Go take them out. Go take them out, because you all gonna go extinct at this rate.
We love everybody.
Not everybody.
But, well,
a lot of people.
But
Not
we shouldn't
everybody.
be. We shouldn't.
You know, this is how silly the entire MAGA movement is. So Donald Trump promised that he was going to lower the cost of groceries on day one. That hasn't happened. Said he was going to lower the price of gas. That hasn't happened. He falsely claims that eggs are down, 400%, which would mean that the grocery stores pay you to take them. Egg prices haven't come down. Rent prices haven't come down. Home prices haven't come down. Inflation's gone up. He promised that he was going to end these wars on day one. That hasn't happened. In fact, now we had more wars. We had the Russian-Ukraine thing, and then, of course, we had to go in there and help Israel out with Iran. And, it never friggin' ends. He said he was going to get rid of the IRS. What happened to that? Looks like the IRS is still around, boy. They still want your taxes, still want you to file that paperwork. He promised no taxes on overtime and no taxes on tips. Turns out that's a whole crock of shit because, you have to qualify for it. All of this stuff is just complete lies. And yet, for some reason, they believe everything this man says. It is so ridiculous that they cannot see through the BS. The Republican Party, which I belong to for many, many years, bases its whole identity off of stealing from poor and low-income people and giving it to the rich. They tell you to work harder, you'll get ahead in life. Bullshit. If the hardest worker was the most successful, then the donkey would own the farm. And that's an old saying that goes back, and it's so goddamn true. But yet, Republicans will continue along with this so-called trickle-down economics, hoping someday it's going to pay off. But it's not going to pay off. Folks, stop falling for the scam and stop voting against your own interest. Like, share, follow for more. This is Grim with Get the Rant, and I will see you all in the next video.
Hispanics aren't the only ones that took advantage of the 14th Amendment to be able to provide a better life for their children. I mean, there's so many race and ethnicities and so many people that immigrated into this country. Yes, it was announced, the 14th Amendment, for the babies of slaves so they could be citizens because they weren't even considered anything at all. But what's crazy is that you have this current Trump administration trying to weaponize the 14th Amendment. That way he can attack more people and do more criminal acts to get people out of this country. Just to, for the end goal, just to make it white again. Not a great again, white again. And people that are agreeing with him tampering with the 14th Amendment, y'all have real issues going on. And I think you guys should reevaluate it. Because this is not just concerning for a particular group of people. This is actually concerning for all groups of people in the United States. And you know, if you don't believe me, look into Donald Trump's baby moms and how their children was born into this country. This whole administration is just full of hypocrisy. And let's not forget that Donald Trump is descended from Germans. What's crazy about that is that his father tried to hide his German roots until after World War II. Do your research. Oh, hey, y'all heard all of that?
New York Times journalist came right out and said it on Democracy Now! This morning. Trump's massive deportation plan is not really about fighting crime. That's one of the biggest lies that's ever been told in history. So what is it about? It's about racially re-engineering the United States. That's what it's about. Changing the culture of the United States, changing the racial profile of what the United States looks like. The true goal of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Project 2025, and the techno-fascists all revolve around this pseudo-scientific belief that there is a racial superiority among the original people who immigrated to the United States, the first white Anglo-Saxon Protestant settlers, and they believe that these are the true Americans. And once the Latinos and black people and other immigrants to this country are either imprisoned in for-profit prisons or deported, and that our laws that demand equality are reversed or perverted, it's an attempt to reposition these white men into the original positions of power that they imagined from the early days of the country. If you were really to go and look at Project 2025 and look at the comments that have been made by Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, and the so-called intellectuals behind the MAGA movement, such as Steve Bannon and the other people that are forming this techno-fascist movement, there is a common theme which I'll break down for you. Number one, reverse the racial diversification of America. Me, as a teacher, as a young teacher, I remember in the early 90s when our school curriculums began to change by bringing in more black and Latino authors who were not recognized by the people in the past who represented a very white version of American culture, which Trump wants us to go back to. What an outcry when we began to bring in books like The House on Mango Street and Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And we were listening to the comments of the very same people involved in this Trump movement saying that it was political correctness, making us push to the side the more valued and more skilled white writers in order to have this political correctness of multiculturalism. I know these people for a very long time because they affected me in my classroom that way. And now you see Trump removing from libraries some of the very same books because he's calling them woke. So beyond that, we want to see changes that Trump will use to privilege white Christian dominance, to redefine citizenship for European descendants and people that are so-called culturally pure. And now we see him crushing these laws that allowed people to escape violence and war in their countries under international law, turning their backs on refugees who really need the help of our country, and only making an exception for white people from South Africa. He would bring them in big numbers and continue to move out Latinos and Caribbean immigrants of all colors, filling private prisons, filling airplanes, deporting people to private prisons, and trying to use propaganda to convince the American public that these people are criminals, where we know scientifically, looking at data, that the immigrant community commits far less crime than the so-called native population. It's just incredible. I really just can't understand how my black and Latino friends who still support Trump have had their eyes and ears closed. I mean, Trump has been talking from his earliest days about not allowing immigrants from what he calls shithole countries, which naming almost all the Latin American countries and saying we should instead bring in people from places like Norway. Do I have to spell it out for you for what that means? Let me just close by saying the United States has made the biggest mistake that any country has ever made by opening the door to these white supremacists. These are people from the very fringes of society that are going to do great damage to our country the longer they remain in power. Please share your thoughts in the comments, and please share this video. Thank you.
Can somebody explain this to me like I'm a 2-year-old? In this country, if you break the law, you get arrested. If you're a cop and you break the law, you get arrested. If you're a priest and you break the law, you get arrested. If you're a soldier and you break the law, you get arrested. If you're ICE and you break the law, nothing. What the fuck is this? Why aren't mayors ordering the police department to arrest these motherfuckers? I don't understand. They're breaking the law. They're racial profiling people. They're kidnapping people. They're busting into people's homes and businesses without warrants. They're beating up people. Arrest these motherfuckers. What the fuck is going on? That's what the police is supposed to do. Arrest people that break the law. It doesn't matter what fucking job they have. So what? They work for the federal government? They don't get arrested? Fuck that. Order your police departments to arrest these motherfuckers. They're breaking the law every fucking day.
Have you seen these 3 videos? Let's talk about them.
Told ICE agents arrived this morning here right around 6 o'clock in the morning. We don't know how many people were detained. One of the farm workers we talked to said ICE agents were chasing some of their co-workers around until they were detained.
The farms.
Officials here were in fact ICE agents, and the people working at this facility were bussed out around 1 p.m. today. In the video we captured, it shows officials moving people into this white bus. These people were handcuffed with zip ties. The bus had shades preventing people from seeing who's inside.
Meatpacking industry.
Impacting this construction project, but many others in the region as well. An industry expert telling us that these raids are having more drastic impacts now than in the past.
How does any of that make sense? This is about cruelty, and we are shooting ourselves in the foot. The number went up. It's 3,000 people a day. Elementary school graduations. Courthouses, people doing it the legal way. 6 in the morning. At work, in the fields, picking. The logic that Americans are going to want to do these jobs
Like, what's the plan? Who's going to do these jobs? Like, think about it. Like, this can get even crazier really fast. We're like 5 months in.
Guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing super great from wherever you're watching me from. As you know, again, I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories. Welcome to the channel. Let's have a discussion about this. First of all, I would like to recognize the fact that this is a crisis of their own making. Why? Many white construction business owners enthusiastically supported anti-immigration candidates like Donald Trump, drawn by promises to protect American jobs and crack down on illegal immigration. However, they failed to consider that a significant portion of their workforce, especially in farming, especially in framing, roofing, drywall, masonry, and landscaping, was composed of undocumented immigrants. These very same owners are seeing their business suffer as workers flee or disappear, creating massive labor shortages. And that's how it can be, because you are being inconsiderate because of your greed, because this is Mr. Donald Trump, this is a white person, I should vote for him, I don't care about immigrants. Forgetting that these are the same people that are driving all these construction sites that you owning, right? Secondly, I'd like to talk about the hypocrisy of support for harsh immigrant policies. These contradictions exposes what is called a core hypocrisy. The business owners wanted a tough stance on immigration, imagining it would only affect other people, mainly those in cities or on welfare. They didn't expect the policies would reach their own job sites. In backing a crackdown, they ignored the fact that their industries have long depended on immigrant labor, which is often undocumented, to perform the physically demanding, low-paying work that most native-born Americans are unwilling to do. And this is where it becomes diabolic. These are the same people that are anti-immigration laws, but again, they forget that they are themselves, they have these undocumented workers who are working in their construction sites. It's a double standard. How did they expect these to affect other people and not them? It is affecting them, because once you supported Mr. Donald Trump, you know that that was inevitable. That was what was to come to you. So just embrace it and embrace it at the same time. I'm going to be talking about economic dependency, hidden behind political denial. The construction industry, like agriculture, relies heavily on cheap, flexible, and expendable workforce. White owners often paid undocumented workers under the table of scattered legal employment channels to save costs. Publicly, they have championed law and order and anti-immigration rhetoric, but privately benefited from a system that exploited undocumented labor. This contradiction is now collapsing under the weight of its own delusion. I would like also to address the ICE raids which create fear and chaos on job sites. You've seen people running for their lives, people running not to be caught, people running not to be separated from their families, people running for the fear of starting a new life. And I understand, as an immigrant, it's not always easy to start over. I understand that. This is what is happening. When ICE conducts raids or increases surveillance in an area, word spread quickly in immigrant communities. Workers, both undocumented and even legal residents, stop showing up to work. Construction timelines are delayed, bids are missed, and projects stall. The fear of detention and deportation is so high that many workers abandon jobs, housing, and entire regions. White contractors are left scrambling, angry that the very policies they applauded are now gutting their workforce. It's sad, but that's just the truth, because this is what they decided to do, and this is what is coming and affecting them negatively. So, again, brace yourselves and embrace the change again. I'm going to be talking about the labor shortage, which is hitting so hard. You've seen that gentleman who has I don't know, something like a cafe or an hotel with nobody, right? So this is affecting their jobs because there's no labor shortage. There's no people come and buy in these places. How are people going to work in these places when there's no people to cook for them? Ain't nobody's going to come to do that. Now, with the immigration pipeline disrupted and fewer skills work available, construction companies are struggling to fill positions. Labor costs are rising because there are not enough workers to meet demand. Ironically, this is driving up the cost of housing and delaying infrastructure development. Precisely the things these owners claimed will be fixed by stricter immigration enforcement. In reality, the opposite is happening. Productivity is down, deadlines are missed, and profit margins are shrinking, especially those especially those buildings that add deals, add targets, these are all being affected. But how? They're being affected negatively. Also, I like to say that Americans are filling up the gap. One argument used to justify mass deportation is that these jobs should go to real Americans. But the truth is that few US-born citizens are willing to do the hard labor involved in the construction at the wages these companies are used to paying. The work is tough, often seasonal, and physically demanding. White owners are discovering that their fantasy of replacing undocumented workers with eager Americans is just that, a fantasy. That's why you complained about these immigrants taking your jobs. Now, go work on those construction farms. You white people, go work on those construction farms because that's what you wanted, right? I'm also going to be talking about moral panic, which turned into economic panic. What started as a cultural or political panic over immigration, fueled by racism, xenophobia, and fear of demographic change, has morphed into a real economic panic for the same people who stoked it. They are facing a form of blowback, the economic consequences of aligning with policies that ignore the complex realities of their own labor needs. It's a moment of reckoning that exposes short-sightedness of politically motivated hate dressed up patriotism. It's crazy, but that's just what they gotta live with. That's just what they gotta deal with. Also, no sympathy for the margins. Communities of color, immigrant rights activists, and many Black and Latino workers view this unraveling with a mix of irony and frustration. These white-owned businesses were complicit in an exploitative labor systems and helped elect politicians who promised to enforce harsh immigration laws. Now that's backfiring. They are receiving little sympathy. Many see it as karma or poetic justice. I like also talk about the business model was always unsustainable. Relying on a vulnerable and easily exploited workforce is a sustainable business model. These companies run on a thin profit margin made possibly by paying undocumented workers low wages, often with no benefits, no job securities, or safety protections. They avoided unionization, resisted regulation, and now they are collapsing because the invisible labor they counted on has vanished. What they called hard work was actually just cheap labor. And now that's gone. Their model is exposed. And that's how crazy it is. What they gotta do? They just gotta embrace themselves and embrace the change. A nation facing the consequences of its own choices. Generally, this is all about this discussion. This situation is a microcosm of a larger American contradiction, demanding order while profiting from chaos, calling for law while benefiting from lawlessness. The construction industry's panic is not just about labor shortage. It's about the failure to reconcile political choices with economic realities. Until there is a serious reckoning with the role immigrants play in building America, these crises will repeat, and those who helped create them will continue to suffer from their own decisions. I'm your presenter and your host, Eugene Talk Stories. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. I'll ask you, if you're watching me for the first time, I'll ask you to subscribe to the channel, join our membership. I really get to see what we can offer you. But until then, Let me see you on my next video, as we usually do. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute. See ya.